Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, 340. Sakhi Radhika Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I have not read this, sorry.
Okay, no problem. I think you're not there in the last class, no? That's okay, Mataji. I'll go to Divya Mataji, Hare Krishna. If you are.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhu, I wasn't there last time as well.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Madhuri Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Prabhu, I was on mute.
That's okay.
So yeah, again, this is a very important verse, Prabhu. So in previous verses, Krishna was telling like how different levels of Agyana or we will be covered with Agyana. So now here, going forward, he says like Indriyani Mano Buddhi. So the Indriyani is nothing but the senses. Mano is mind. Buddhi is intelligence. So Asyadishtanam Uchate, they are sitting they are the sitting places of lust. So Asya Adishtanam means they will sit. These three senses, mind and intelligence, will sit sitting places of this lust. And Eter Vimohatya Esha Jnanam Avritya Dehinam. So through them, lust covers the real knowledge. So Vimoha is nothing but covers, bewilders actually. Vimoha, living entities. Jnanam Avrutya Dehinam. So knowledge, the real knowledge will be will uncover.
Will be covered. Avratya.
Yeah, Avritya. So what, overall what it is saying is like in this verse, the senses, mind and intelligence, the lust sits in these places and then it covers the real knowledge of the living entity and then it bewilders like Vimoha. So living entity become Vimoha.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. This is the best place of learning, when we can break down each and every word. So it becomes very sweet and it's very, very easy actually. It takes a while and you can take help from Prabhupada's synonyms and Prabhupada translations and slowly we can learn. So how does this verse relate to the previous verse? Maybe someone else can say. So it's a good translation. How do we relate it back? Because every verse is like in a thread, very beautifully arranged by Krishna. So what have you learned so far in the previous verses about the lust? So we have
it is the lust that actually desires come from lust actually.
Yeah. So it's a Nitya Varina, it's an eternal enemy. Now we have talked about different degrees of lust. We can talk different types of lust. How does it damages us? So this verse is talking about where does it sit? Because now you feel like, facing the enemy. When you're facing the enemy, you need to know where does the enemy sit. So when we know where does enemy sit, then we can, point our gun or whatever weapon you have towards that enemy. So here, Krishna is very nicely explaining where does it sit. So it sits at three places: Indriya, Mano, Buddhi, senses, mind, and intelligence. These are the three places, three residential spots for the lust. Now let's see the next one. Now 41 to 43, what is the theme of these three verses? Anyone who was here last time?
Yeah, how to deal with the lust.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice. Huh? So these three verses, Krishna will explain how we can deal and he will give two solutions. Huh? Let's see 41. Who's the next one? Mahavasu Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sorry. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Probably you were not here last week, huh?
Yeah, but that's okay, Prabhu. Can I try?
Oh, please, please.
Thank you. Okay. So, as in the previous verses, as Arjuna asked, what was the force that actually forces someone to do the activity which is not interested in, right? So then Krishna gives the answer, it's actually the lust, which is the biggest papa, mahapapa. Then continue to it, he says about the different degrees of lust. Then he talks about how the lust actually covers the intelligence of a person, right? And where does it sit? Now, Krishna in this verse is giving the answer. The first one that he says, Tasmatvam Indriyao Adho Niyam Ya Bharates Sabaha Papa Manam Prajahi Enam Jnanam Vijnanam Nashanam. It says that therefore, O Arjuna, the best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, the lust, by regulating the senses, and slay the destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So here in this, the lust, once we, like Krishna is giving, in this actually Krishna is giving the solution, but it also tells like how it actually helps us. Like first he says that if there is lust, any desire, we have to actually control it, or we have to cut it by regulating our senses. So our senses should be regulated, right? And in that way, what happens is that it will actually help us to understand who we are, because that's where Prabhupada wrote the word knowledge and self-realization, because knowledge and self-realization cannot happen as long as we are deluded by the lust. We are getting more and more into satisfying our senses and trying to satisfy the senses, because the senses are something that will always keep on demanding. There is no end for the senses to demand. So there will always be desires. So Prabhupada says that, Krishna says that the best thing is that first we understand that we actually have to control our desires by actually controlling the senses. So that's what I
understood. We can see niyam.
It is niyamya.
So the bottom line of this verse actually is one word, which is niyamya. And what are we niyamya? What are we controlling, regulating? Indriyani. And when are we controlling? Adav, in the very, very beginning.
Very beginning.
As Prahlad Maharaj says, start devotional life from Kaumaram Acharita Pragyo, the very early stage of life. Children are never too early. We have this Abhayan, 1 year old. He is still listening Bhakti Shastri class. He's only 1 year old, but he's listening. So it is never late to start. Any age is fine. So niyamya, that's the bottom line of this verse. What niyamya? Indriyani. Now we're not talking about man and buddhi here. What are we talking? So three places Krishna told in the previous verse, but here what's saying Indriyani. Why is he saying about Indriya only, not man and buddhi? Anyone?
It is the source of it.
Source, okay.
And it is a lower level, Prabhu.
Lower level. So first control. Now in Sanskrit, there is two words, Indriya Dama and Shama. You remember Indriya Daman. What does Indriya Daman means? Control the Indriyas by dam, like by force. So although your desire is present, but you control your, suppose you are fasting on Ekadashi and you see a very nice cake offered to Gopinath, it's a great cake. You feel like, wow, such a nice cake. But what do? You control yourself. You take a piece home and tomorrow you can break your fast with that cake, or whatever other examples may come up. The point is controlling Indriya is little easier than controlling the mind. Which is easier, controlling the Indriya or controlling the mind? Initially, in the initial stages. Mind controlling is very difficult. So many rubbish comes into the mind, but that is very, very difficult to control. It's a very high stage. But initially, although mind may be agitated, but we should not act on the agitation of the mind. So it's called Indriya. First, try to control your Indriya. Control your Indriya. No, today is Ekadashi, or I'm following Krishna consciousness. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to say this. Although I feel angry in my mind, I feel lusty in my mind, but what I'm supposed to act correctly. So that's why it's calling Indriya. So first control, curb your Indriya, control your Indriya in the very, very beginning, not too late, because if you get too late, you remember 262, Dhyayate Vishan Punsa Sangha Se Subjayate, Sangha Sanjayate Kama, Kama Krudo Vijayate. The more you contemplate on the sense objects, what will happen? The deeper you go, and then the coming out is very, very difficult. So in the very beginning, as soon as a thought which you think is anti-spiritual, anti-devotional thought, you immediately come out of it, Otherwise, if you contemplate for half an hour, do you think it will be easy to come out? You already gone so deep into this. Now you just want to, do the next step. So Indriyani Adav. Adav word is very, very important. Huh? Now, how it will save, as Mahavasa Prabhu was explaining, Gyan Vigyan Nasham will be saved from the destruction of knowledge. Knowledge refers to, again, a raw piece of information, and Vigyan refers to the realized knowledge. So obviously, we are all at the moment is gaining knowledge. Huh? But the purpose is not to gain the knowledge only. The purpose is to have Vigyan, the realized knowledge. But this is how we start, with the pure goal that we will realize this knowledge, we'll live this knowledge. And then if we are able to control our Indriya in the very, very beginning, what will happen? Our Gyan Vigyan Nashana will not happen. We'll remember the good instructions of Shastra, good instructions of a spiritual master, good instructions of devotees, and then we'll safeguard ourselves. If you remember what happened to Ajamil. Ajamil saw something and Dhayate Vishyan Punsa. He started contemplating on it. And then all the instructions of Shastra, he knew a lot of instructions. He was a very big person in that sense. He was a good Brahman. But all the instructions of the Shastra were lost. Bharat Maharaj, what happened? He also knew a lot. He was practicing at the Bhava level. But what happened? He just came into contact with this deer. And then without the devotee association, he was sort of lost temporarily, although technically not. So this tells the first control for the lust. Let's look at the 42 verse. Who has not done as yet? Sumit Prabhuji, I think you haven't done it.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Translation: the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. In this particular verse, what Krishna is trying to tell is the hierarchy of sitting places of the lust, where it actually sits. So where it says the working senses which we have, the Indriya, they are higher, they're superior to the dull matter. So Indriyani, Parnay Ahur, and then mind is higher than the senses. Indriyabhya Paramahamana, so which it says that mind sits higher than the senses. And intelligence is higher than the mind, which is the third line, Manasa tu para buddhir. And then finally, soul is higher than the intelligence. So yo buddhe paratas tu so. So in this case, the Sahur refers to the soul. Last time. Again, senses, they're the kind of outlets for the activity of the lust. So basically, the solution to the whole problem, which is said, is the constitution of soul, and it should engage in direct connection with Krishna, in the Krishna consciousness state of our life.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Puji, that's fine. So this verse actually doesn't tell the solution. It sets up the context for the solution, which comes in verse 43.
Yeah.
So the first verse, say 41, Krishna has told one solution: control your senses in the very beginning. And now before you go to the higher solution, it gives a little hierarchy so that we can understand. So the hierarchy, as Prabhuji was saying, you can see a word called para. In all the 4 lines you see, para means higher, superior. Huh? Yeah. So who is higher? So Indriyani, which is senses, are higher than the dull matter. Like I'm sitting on a chair or table. Table is a dull matter. Huh? But my senses, at least in this stage, you can say a little higher. We can control the table up to an extent. Now, who is higher than Indriya? Manaha. So mind should be able to control the senses, ideally speaking. And buddhi should be able to control the mind. And anyone remembers that analogy, which Prabhupada has presented many times, the chariot, the passenger on the chariot analogy is called. The senses are like the horses, 5 horses are like the senses. The rein of the horses is considered the mind. The driver is the intelligence, and the passenger is the soul. So there are 4 things involved, same 4 things here as well. The passenger wants to go from A to B. He tells driver, go to North Sydney. But he said the horses are uncontrolled. So you start your journey, from A. and you have to go to say D. But by the time you reach to B, you start moving towards Z. Instead of going towards D, you're going towards Z, because your senses, your horses are not controlled. Why they are not controlled? Because the rein is not strong enough. And why the rein is not strong enough? Because the holder of the rein, which is the intelligence, is not strong enough. Now, there's another example given in some Purana I heard in a class, also very nice. Senses are like children. Children see a chocolate, for example. Not our devotee children, some other children. They just go and, I want chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. And whom did they approach to? Mama. And Mama says, "Beta, I don't have money. I'll ask your father." So Mama is like, it says in this example, it's an example from Purana. Mama is like mind. Mama also does not distinguish so much, generally speaking. And then Mama goes to the father. Father is considered this example as intelligence. So now senses, which don't have much training at this stage, they are just the kids. They just get attracted to anything and everything. They want n number of things which may be harmful for them. And then they approach man, which is little higher senses, approach to man. And man says, actually, it's very tasty. This chocolate is very, very tasty. You really like it, but I can't get you. But let me take the permission from the other party to get you the chocolate. And the other party goes, no, we're not doing it. So he says, this is how our Vedic culture worked, at least. Hard to establish these sort of examples in modern world. But this is how the Vedic culture worked. So the husband is supposed to be situated in full devotion, full Krishna consciousness, and that he also leads the other dependents towards the right path, although they may want it, but he will say, no, that's not good for you. That's not good for you. And so that's how the hierarchy is maintained. So here, the same thing is mentioned here. Buddhi is supposed to be engaged in Krishna's service. When the Buddhi is engaged in Krishna's service, the man will be purified. When the man is purified, Indriyani, no matter how much wings they flap, they're not going to get much about it. Okay, so this is the hierarchy. Now, keeping this hierarchy in mind, Krishna tells the second solution, which is a deeper solution than the verse 41. Now, who hasn't done as yet in the last class? Prasanatma Prabhu, Hare Krishna. The screen is getting frozen because of internet or something. Maybe Rasanand Prabhu, you can do one more.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Right.
So this is the second solution to what to say, to curb or to regulate. The translation is, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. So as we have seen, to conquer the lust, Krishna gives two options or two strategies. One is that we have to regulate our senses. So actually not to not to stop in totally, but to just regulate it. So that is the first one. That is basically to subdue or to regulate strategy. And the second strategy is mentioned in this is basically a diversion strategy. So you're trying to divert all the sitting places of the lust to get into the spiritual path, so that get the strength. So with the help of the buddhi, the intelligence which is at the higher level, that to be attracted to the spiritual strength, so that by the way you will be able to conquer the enemy lust. So here basically to use your intelligence to go in a top-down approach, to control the intelligence, mind, and the senses using the spiritual path. So here the Satru, so basically are the words like Satru saying the enemy, and Sambhashya by studying, Atmana refers to the deliberate spiritual intelligence. So what is coming there is the Kama Rubina in the form of lust. It's coming. So it's actually formidable. That is Dura Sadam. So it's a formidable form. Lust is coming and trying to attack us. So that is the enemy. It has to be controlled by referring our spiritual intelligence to higher spiritual things. That's the strategy.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice. So we can see here Prabhupada is writing for the second line, Atmanam, there is one word, and Atmana is another word. So Atmanam, and read that in 6th chapter again. They're similar words, but they have different meanings, and only acharyas can translate it. So we just reading it. So Atmanam refers to the mind. So we have covered the senses in the previous verses. Now we're covering the mind and intelligence. So the first buddha, as we see in the synonym, first buddha is the intelligence. So we have our intelligence, whatever good or bad we have. So what we should do, evam buddhe, from the buddhi, where we should put our buddhi, param buddhva. So we should know what we should know, that if we control, sanstabhya refers to the study. Study means, again, situate in the right sense, where atmanam, our mind and intelligence into the spiritual path. So if we study our intelligence to start with into the spiritual thoughts, into spiritual activities, then our mind will also be engaged there. And when our mind is engaged, our buddhi is engaged, then obviously our senses will also be engaged. And then when we are engaged there, Kama Rupam Durasanam, we can win over this formidable enemy called lust. So first one was, even if you have the thoughts, don't react on it. So just restrain it. So initially, we may have different desires, but we restrain it. No, this is not anukul. This is not favorable for my bhakti. So I restrain myself. And the second level, I engage my mind, my buddhi into all the spiritual thoughts. And when we are engaged in those spiritual thoughts, the other things will not come upon at all. But obviously, second level is a bit higher, and that will need training and practice over a long period of time. You can't control your buddhi, you can't change your buddhi from overnight, from a very degraded stage to a very higher stage. Okay, so this is how Krishna deals with this last section, where he tells a very practical enemy and a very practical solution how to deal with that enemy. Now, before we get to the 4th chapter, let's look at the little introduction of the 4th chapter. Now, 4th chapter is known as Transcendental Knowledge. Second, I was willing to read some names first. So these are the different names that Prabhupada has given to different chapters. So we have covered 3 chapters so far. Observing the armies in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Anyone remembers the Sanskrit name for this? If you remember, it's not a part of Bhakti Shastri course, but we have discussed. It's nice to know.
Arjuna Vishada Yoga.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Arjuna Vishad Yoga. And that was the first name, but that's not the translation, right? So we discussed about 2 names. I will not go into much detail, and Prabhupada chose this one, observing the armies in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So there are 2 parts of the chapter. 2nd chapter, Prabhupada writes the contents of the Gita Sunrise. Anyone remembers the Sanskrit name?
Sankhya Yoga.
Thank you, Prabhuji. 3rd chapter is quite straightforward. Who will tell the 3rd one? Karma Yoga. Now the 4th one and the 5th one, so they all actually sit together. If you see chapter 3, 4, and 5, they're roughly the similar thing. So first one starts from Karma Yoga, because we are in the Karma Yoga section. So Krishna starts chapter 3 with that. And chapter 5 is named as Karma Sannyas Yoga in Sanskrit. Karma Sannyas Yoga. And now the chapter in between, which is chapter 4, which we're going to read right now, is known as Karma Sannyas Yoga. So we are in the part of the Karma Yoga section. So Karma Yoga, Karma Sannyas Yoga, and the 4th chapter, which is in the middle, is called Gyan Karma Sannyas Yoga. So what is that knowledge which will help us to do karma in such a way which will lead us to sannyas? Now, sannyas is not a physical sannyas. We discussed about, karma sannyas or karma se sannyas. So we renounce the activity, or we renounce in the activity. So what's the preference here? Renouncing in the activity. We should have renounced spirit rather than renouncing the work. So I renounce everything and I sleep. That's not the point. I should do activity in such a way my mood is renounced. I'm unattached to the activity, and whatever activity provides the fruit, I offer that fruit to the Lord, to Krishna. So the 4th chapter, Prabhupada translated as Transcendental Knowledge. Now, how does this section from lust, which we have just read, converts to the knowledge? What's the linkage here? Anyone can guess? In this whole chapter, at many places, Krishna clearly, even the last section, Krishna is saying, Jnanino Nityavarina, is talking about the Gyan. is
Gyan.
covering the gyan, is covering the gyan. And you have to deal lust in this way, that way. So to deal with the lust, you need knowledge, isn't it? Because that knowledge is covered. Now, what that knowledge is and how Krishna gives that knowledge and how that knowledge helps us to overcome our weaknesses, that will be described in chapter 4, which is known as Gyan Karma Sannyas Yoga, or transcendental knowledge. So it's not just the knowledge, it's the transcendental knowledge. So let's read our PDF. What are the different sections of this chapter? So there are 5 sections in this chapter. First is transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So Krishna will give knowledge about himself. A pretty good introduction of Krishna and different things which Krishna does. We'll read. And the second section is Krishna as the goal of all paths and the creator of Varnashrams. Some beautiful verses are there, very, very popular verses in these 2 sections. And then third section leads to Karma Yoga. So how do you do Karma Yoga in a knowledgeable way? Because you need knowledge to do the Karma Yoga in a proper way. Karma Yoga, many people are doing it. How do we do in a proper way, which leads to the proper goal? And then Krishna says different sacrifices. Krishna will talk about different sacrifices. Sacrifices lead to the transcendental knowledge. So again, you can do sacrifice in such a way which will lead to transcendental knowledge. And the last is summary of transcendental knowledge, also known as in some other books as glories of transcendental knowledge. So if you know that knowledge, transcendental knowledge, what you will achieve and how you will achieve. And if you don't know that knowledge, if you don't follow the knowledge, what will happen? That Krishna will describe in the last sections. There are 42 verses here. In the previous chapter, there's 43 verses. So it's still a sort of a similar chapter. So let's start from the first section first, transcendental knowledge about Krishna, which is around first 10 verses. They're pretty nice verses. You can try to learn them. They're very, very easy and very interesting. They're like a story. So let's do, who hasn't done as yet? So Jasmine Mataji, I'm not sure if you are driving. Don't respond. Okay.
She is driving actually.
Huh?
She is driving actually.
She is driving. No, she also mentioned earlier. Yes, fine. Divya Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I'll try. Yes. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Imam Vivashyate Yogam.
Imam
Vivashyate
Yogam. Proktavan Aham Avyayam.
Proktavan Avyayam.
Vivasvan Manave Praha.
Vivasvan Manave Praha.
Manur Ikspake Pravit. Translation. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku.
Thank you, Mataji. So Sri Bhagavan Vacha now. So Sri Bhagavan Krishna already starting this section. So many chapters you will see Arjuna will start the section. So he will prompt a question and then Krishna will respond the answers. But in this chapter, you see there's a connection between, he just explained the section about the lust. He has explained the importance of knowledge. So now he himself is explaining the knowledge. So the knowledge which I'm talking, Krishna is saying, I'm talking about, this is not a knowledge which is I'm going to give you right now. This has been existing actually for a very, very long time. And Krishna gives a little history of that particular knowledge before giving the knowledge. So imam refers to imam yogam. So this yoga refers to what? A simple meaning of yoga. Connection. Connection between
Lord and
Atma and Paramatma, Jiva and Ishvara. So this knowledge, this yoga, Avyayam refers to Vyay and Avyay.
It will never diminish.
Never diminishes, imperishable. So this knowledge actually is imperishable. So this is not just, so whenever it says Krishna created the human beings, he created the knowledge as well. So he's just not just created the human beings and left us here. No, he created with the human beings a Vedic knowledge so that human beings can play here. And then once they are done, they can come back to me. So Krishna is very, very kind, giving this knowledge. Avyam, and he's saying Proktavan. Proktavan refers to I spoke. So even Vivasvate, I spoke this imperishable knowledge to whom? First, Vivasvate. Vivasvate refers to Vivaswan. Vivaswan, as Prabhupada writes, is sun god. So Prabhupada writes sun has three things. So sun rays are there, sun planet is there, and inside sun planet, there's a person who is ruling over the sun planet, and his name at the moment is Vivaswan. So they're all the demigods, as we know, the son of Aditis. So the first son of Aditi is Aditya. So Aditya, Aditi, and Aditya is the elder son, and Aditya refers to sun, Surya, Bhaskar, Ravi. There's so many names. So Krishna spoke this knowledge first to sun. Now, why he spoke with sun? Any ideas? Because sun is a very, very important person, isn't it? If there is no sun in the universe, what will happen to the universe? It will not exist. We need sun. Without sun, we cannot survive. So sun not only gives physical comfort. Physical comfort means giving a good temperature so that we can live in. It says, I was listening to one lecture, it says the distance between Earth and sun, whatever it is in terms of miles or kilometers, if Earth was just a little away, just a little away, it will be so cold that will not be able to survive here. It was little towards the sun, opposite way, it will be so hot, will not be able to survive. So Krishna has made such a perfect arrangement, just a perfectly situated from the sun, that we get enough heat, so it's good for our survival. Within 20 to 40, it's all right. Anytime over 40 is too much, under 20 is also too much. But if Earth was little here and there, we'll not be able to survive. So sun is extremely important for the life. If sun wasn't there, we cannot survive. Not only sun is important for the external life, sun is also important for our internal life. It says sun is the devta of knowledge. Sun gives knowledge. Sun gives knowledge, light to the whole universe. So it gives external as well as internal light. So sun being such a prominent person in this universe, Krishna chose that sun to give the knowledge, and through the sun, the knowledge will be given to other living entities. And this is what exactly is happening in the verse. So he spoke with sun, Vivaswan, and Vivaswan Manave. So Manu
I think it's got stuck.
I think there's an issue at Hemanga Prabhu's. I'll just text him. He's having internet problems, so he'll connect using his mobile data in a few minutes.
Hare Krishna, I am back. I got disconnected by internet. I didn't realize.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll share the screen again. Okay, let me know if you can see.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
We're talking about the sun and the andhakar came. Okay. So we're talking about why Krishna chose sun, because sun being a very, very important personality. And it says Krishna gives light to one who gives light to everyone. So it's a very important person because he can enlighten everyone else. We see sun is also the Guru Maharaj of Hanumanji. Hanumanji being extremely knowledgeable, but sun is actually his guru. Sun is the wealth of knowledge. So sun got this knowledge from Krishna. And if you see in Prabhupada purport here, Prabhupada also talks about how far ago Krishna spoke this knowledge. So roughly speaking, Prabhupada calculates here 120 million years ago. So this knowledge was spoken 120 million years ago to the sun. And in the human society, it's been there for around 2 million years. Now, what happens in between? Why this knowledge, there's a need to be re-spoken? We'll look into the next verse. Vichya Mataji, would you like to read this?
Evam parampara praptam.
Evam parampara praptam.
Ivam rajarshayo viduhu.
Imam rajayasho viduhu.
Sakale neha mahata.
Sakale neha mahata.
Yogo nashta parantapa.
Yogo nashta parantapa.
Translation.
Sorry, Guruji. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost.
Thank you, Mataji. So now Krishna is talking about this Evam Parampara Praptam. So Krishna again talks about, first he gave the name, he gave the knowledge to Vivaswan, Vivaswan gave this knowledge to Manu Maharaj, and Manu gave to Ikshvaku. And the whole knowledge was coming down in the Parampara system, the disciplic succession, which Prabhupada talks in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. Now Krishna is also talking about that. And the main point here, Krishna is saying this parampara was based on where Imam Rajarshayo Viduhu. So Rajarshi word, if you break this word down, is made up of two words, Raja and Rishi. So Raja refers to king and Rishi refers to a sage. So in the Vedic culture, the kings were not like power-hungry kings, and they just want to become the king and then want to do anything which they like. They were actually rishis. So rishis in general, what's the definition of rishi? Who is the king of the inner world? He can control his mind, he can control his senses, and that's how the rishis are. And Raja is supposed to be the king of the outer world. So in the present day and age, if you see, Raja and Rishi will be exactly opposite to each other, isn't it? Raja will be sitting in a parliament house somewhere and, making so many decisions, good or bad. And Rishis will be sitting in somewhere else, if they are real Rishis. But in the Vedic culture, the Raja was just not the Raja who's just being an autocrat, monarch, and doing anything he likes. No, he was a Raj Rishi. He was saintly from inside and Raja from outside. He was powerful physically as well as mentally. And he always took decisions based on the Shastra. Shastra was the guideline. Even in the scriptures, you will hear in Ravan assembly when Hanumanji was there and Ravan said, kill this Vanar, kill this messenger. And what was the argument put forward? In Shastra, it says we can never kill the messenger. So Ravan said, okay, all right, I agree to that. So Ravan also agreed with that. When Kumbhakaran go and see Ravan, what does he do? He do pranam, Pranam Bhrata Shri. So even Kumbhakaran, Rakshasa, so to speak, Rakshasa, they also followed the Vedic culture. They knew what is Satya, what is Asatya, what is truth, what is untruthful. Kumbhakarna was saying to Ravan, like, what you have done is completely irreligious. You have stolen someone else's wife in his absence, and now you're not returning it. Even Indrajit said that. Vibhishan was giving good advice based on Dharma. So Shastra was the Praman. Shastra was like the barometer of all the actions. Now, many people didn't follow Shastra in a way, but that's a different thing. But Shastra was the Praman. Nowadays, there is no Shastra, no Praman. Whatever these hot-headed leaders make as a law, we are supposed to follow that law, whether it's right or wrong. Millions of animals are getting killed on a daily basis, but that's all valid. There's no problem, they think, at least. So this knowledge was not just a knowledge lying here and there. It was given to Raj Rishis, who are very prominent leaders in the society. But what happened? Sakalene Mata. In due course of time, Mahata means a long period of time. We're not talking a short period of time. Sakalene Mata. Yoga, even Viviste Yogam. So in the previous verse also, Krishna used the word yoga. So this knowledge, we are not talking any knowledge here. We are talking the knowledge of connecting Jiva with Ishvara. So yoga nashtaha. Now nashtaha in general means destroyed. Now Prabhupada very nicely, I was reading it, has translated nashta as scattered, not destroyed. Destroyed means complete destruction. But you see, the knowledge is not completely destroyed. It's not completely lost. It's scattered. Scattered means it's gone here and there. It's not in parampara anymore. Some people know, and they only know a part of it. Now you see, when this is being spoken by Krishna in this stage 5,000 years ago, when Mahabharata was happening, this Vedic culture was pretty high, isn't it? If you compare that Mahabharata Kal to our Kali Yuga Kal in Sydney, what do you say? Oh, that was fantastic. But Krishna is saying at that time, this knowledge is lost. So what you can understand, even that time when Krishna is speaking this 5,000 years ago, I'm talking, Krishna is thinking no one is following the knowledge very nicely. Now imagine what is the highest level of applying this knowledge, that we are calling a Satyuga. People even in the mind will not get distracted. I heard one little story in some lecture somewhere. I just remembered Dushyanta Maharaj, when he went to the ashram of this Rishi, where Shakuntala was there. He saw Shakuntala and he got attracted towards Shakuntala. But Shakuntala at that time was a Rishi Kanya. She was the daughter of a Rishi, of a sage. So Dushyanta Maharaj, as soon as he saw Shakuntala and he was attracted towards Shakuntala, he said, "Who are you? You cannot be a Rishi Kanya. You cannot be a Rishi Kanya because I come from a dynasty of a Bharat dynasty. These kings like us cannot get attracted to a Brahmani. So you cannot be a Brahmani." So now based on his emotions, he established this girl cannot be the girl of a Brahmana or a Rishi. That's amazing, isn't it? He's relying on his mind. When Yudhishthira was asked, when Kunti Maharani said, when Draupadi came after the marriage of Arjuna, and Kunti Maharani said, no, you should all divide yourself equally. And when Kunti Maharani opened the door, she came out and she saw, oh, this is a lady, it's not a thing. How can you divide the Draupadi amongst 5 of you equally? So first question, everyone looked at Yudhishthira Maharaj because he was the most religious person, and said, Yudhishthira, what's your opinion? What mother has said has to be true, but how come it can be true? So Yudhishthira said one thing, I don't know how it is true, but my mind is saying it's correct. And then on the spot, Vyasadeva came and he said, Yudhishthira is right. So in the previous ages, people will take, actually in Ramayana also there's a Pakyan, when Ram saw Sita for the first time in Janakpuri, Ram got attracted to Sita and he said to Lakshman, it's a statement in Ramayana, he said, my mind is attracted to the lady, she must be going to become my wife, because my mind cannot get attracted to any other lady who is not going to become my wife. So this lady is going to be my wife. So a day before the Swayamvar, Ram said this to Lakshman. So in those ages, people could rely on their mind. Nowadays, mind is the most unreliable thing. Whatever mind says, and we're talking about the mind in the previous chapter, previous section. So those people were so high and they were made the kings. So imagine, so they were protecting the praja. They were ruling the praja in such a nice way. But in due course of time, Sakalene Mata, Yogo Nashta, the knowledge was scattered, not lost. So knowledge was still there, but not perfectly. One example from Mahabharata we can take, People were gambling, the Kshatriyas were gambling. And we see the result of that gamble. It wasn't a good result. It got converted into so many vows, which Arjuna took vows, Bhima took vows, and it was a destruction finally. So, Sakale ne mata yogo nashta parantapa. Hey parantapa, hey Arjun, that knowledge was scattered. So Prabhupada writes, but in due course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science at least appears to be lost. Not lost, appears to be lost. So it's still existing, but very little here and there. So this is why Krishna comes to the third verse and says, because that knowledge is lost, I want to do something to reestablish that knowledge. Let's see what Krishna is doing. 4.3. Prasannatma Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Okay, I think he's probably not there. Jasmine Mataji, I saw you got ready. Hare Krishna.
She might be driving still. I think I'm not sure.
Maybe Sumit Prabhu, you can go.
Yes, Prabhu.
Here's Prasannatma Prabhu. You can do 4.3 and then we can do 4.4 later.
Sa evayam maya tegya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam jatuttama. Translation: that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of the science. Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So the previous verse, Krishna says this knowledge appears to be lost. So I want to reestablish this knowledge because this knowledge is very, very important, and this knowledge will help you to deal with your day-to-day enemy, for example. So he's saying, I am reestablishing, re-giving this knowledge. Sa evayam maya te adya. So adya refers to today, aj. I'm giving this knowledge. Evayam maya te adya. Yoga prokta puratana. So puratana refers to Purana. We have also word Puran. One of the meaning of Puran is Purana, very old. So Prokta refers to I have spoken. What I have spoken, yoga. So this yoga word you see is 3 successive verses being used again and again. So we are talking about very targeted knowledge. We're not talking about another piece of information. It's a very important knowledge because living entity is here, and this yoga, the knowledge of yoga will take this living entity back to Godhead. So this yoga, Puratana, which I've spoken earlier, I'm re-speaking again. Why I'm re-speaking it again? So that because it's lost, right? And I need to reestablish the parampara. And why I'm choosing you to receive this knowledge? 2 qualifications of Arjuna. Bhaktosime, you are my devotee, and Sakha Cheti, and you are my Sakha, you are my friend. And you are able to understand this rahasya. What this rahasya will do? Ras etat uttamam. So tama refers to darkness or ignorance. And uttama refers to coming out of the tama, coming out of the ignorance. So this knowledge will lift you from ignorance. You are in ignorance at the moment, you are crying, you are lamenting. It will lift you up, and you will understand it. And what's your qualification of understanding or receiving this knowledge is bhaktosime sakha cheti. So this line is very, very popular. So if you want to understand the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, then the first qualification, you should be Bhakta, devotee of Krishna, and then you should try to understand in a sakha way. Sakha way refers to in a favorable way, not in an unfavorable way. Now, how to become Bhakta of Krishna, that Krishna has yet not explained, that he will explain later. But what he's saying, you are a Bhakta and you are able to receive this knowledge. Another place is also said Arjuna was the best recipient of this knowledge, not the other Pandavas. Like, for example, even Yudhishthira was not able to receive this knowledge. Anyone knows why? Although he was more religion personified, but Krishna did not choose Yudhishthira to give the knowledge. One reason, there are many reasons. One reason of Yudhishthira not being chosen to receive this knowledge was, it said Yudhishthira was a bit of on a passive side. Yudhishthira was very Brahmanical, very, very Brahmanical. He will let anything happen to him. And it says, that sort of personality, if he receives the knowledge, then we will be misunderstanding. Yudhishthira got this knowledge. I am not like him. So Yudhishthira says in one term he was a passive. Bhima was not chosen to receive this knowledge because Bhima was very aggressive. Whenever there was opportunity, at least he was angry. Obviously, his anger was controlled by Yudhishthira most of the time, but he was very aggressive actually. But it says Arjun was very assertive. Assertive means a person who knows what to do and when to do. He's not let others run over his head, because if you let everyone run over your head, what will happen? You will not be able to survive in this world. Huh? You can't be aggressive because it will be ending up in fight all the time. But Arjun was very assertive. Assertive means he was aggressive at the time where he need to be aggressive, and he was passive at the time where he need to be passive. He was both. He was able to do both. And they say these are the most successful persons of the world, when we become assertive, not aggressive, not passive. The passive means anything is okay, sab chalta hai. Not like that, not aggressive. Every time you're just fighting with others. Assertive. You fight when there's a need for fighting. As Prabhupada said, violence is not needed for devotees, but violence has a place. You cannot be non-violent all the time. The war also has its place. Punishment also has its place in the society. Some people will just not listen, and then they need to be punished appropriately. So Arjun was chosen for this knowledge because he was very assertive. He knew when to use the knowledge, where to use the knowledge, how to use the knowledge. And he was a Bhakta and he was a Sakha. Now Arjun has a question in the next verse. Oh, you gave this knowledge to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan seems to be very, very old. So 4.4, who will read that? Sakhi Mataji, would you like to read? Okay, you're receiving Avyan, that's fine if you have to attend him.
He's quiet now. I'll read. Arjuna Vacha.
Arjuna Vacha.
Aparam bhavato janma.
Aparam bhavato janma.
Param janma vivasvata.
Param janma vivasvata.
Katham itad vijaniyam.
Katham etad vijaniyam.
Tvam ado proktavan iti.
Tvam ado proktavan iti.
Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him?
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. So it says aparam and param. So these words are repeatedly used in Bhagavad Gita. So para refers to the superior and apara refers to the inferior. So we have paradharma, we have aparadharma. Aparadharma refers to deha dharma. Whatever dharma we are following this body for our relatives and for the survival of this body. And paradharma refers to the dharma of the soul. So higher dharma. So here see param janma, higher janma, like the previous janma of Vivasvataha. So Vivaswan have taken birth millions of years ago. Aparam bhavato janam. Bhavata refers to, so tvam refers to you, and bhavata refers to aap. It's a respectful address to the other person. So tvam refers to like you're the same age, but bhavata refers to higher. So Duryodhana also used this word for Bhishma Pitama in the first chapter. So Bhavan Bhishma Shakarnasha Kripascha Saptajaya. So Bhavato Janma. So aapka janma, your janma, apara, your junior, looks like to me, Param janma, the Vivaswan has taken birth long, long ago. Katham etad vijaniyam. How do I understand that? Tomado proktavaniti, that you, Ado, in the beginning spoke this knowledge to him. So you understand the question? So basically Arjuna is expressing his doubt here. Now doubting can have two moods. Doubting can be in a challenging mood, or doubting can be in a clarificatory mood. So it says when we are approaching to our spiritual master, even if you don't know something, we should approach in a challenging mode or in a respectful mode. So you may have a doubt, and that's fine. If you don't know something, you don't know something. You approach to a person, say, Prabhuji, Mataji, I don't know. Can you please show it to me? Or you can be in a challenge. How come you are saying that? So Arjun, with the word bhavato, can very nicely we can understand he's not approaching in a challenging mood. He's approaching in a very respectful mood. Also, if you remember in 331, Yeme matam itam nityam anutishyanti manavaha. So Krishna talked 2 verses 31 and 32, where he says, one who follows this knowledge will get mukta from the bondage of karma. If you don't follow this knowledge, then you'll be vinashyati, you'll be destroyed. So he said that already. Now why Arjuna is expressing his doubt? So whenever the doubt is there, you cannot say, oh, you must believe me, whatever I said must be true. Not like that. But what Krishna meant, you should not doubt in a challenging mode. So if the doubts are there, obviously some questions are there, you need to be clarified. But as far as you're not challenging your authority, at least a bona fide authority, then the doubts are most welcome. Prabhupada says the questions are the sign of intelligence, but questions are not the only sign of intelligence. No? Every time you're asking question. So some questions will understand now, some question will understand later. Not every single piece of knowledge will understand today. First, we don't know. Second, even if we know, we don't understand it. And that's fine, because we leave some things for revelations. It says Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. Krishna will reveal this Divya knowledge in our heart. So everything we don't have to understand through logic, because our brain is very little, and the logic inside that brain is very, very little. And it says if you can understand Krishna by your logic, then logic will become God. Because you can understand logic. You can understand God by logic. So logic is higher, but not everything will be understood by logic. So many things will be revealed. So the questions are most welcome as far as the question is done in a very respectful mode, in trying to clarification mode, and it has a purpose, a good purpose behind it. So Arjuna is expressing his doubt to Krishna. Aparam bhavato janma param janvyasta. So it seems like you are of my age. What was the age of Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Anyone? Roughly?
125.
125. Thank you, Prabhuji. So roughly Krishna and Arjuna, same age, 125 years, because they have played together in childhood. So Arjuna is saying, you and me are the Sakha, right? And Krishna just said that. We are the Ham Umar. We are the same age. How come you gave this knowledge? But he's saying in a very respectful manner. And he's saying, Katham etad vijaniyam. Prabhupada translates very nicely, how I am to understand that. So Arjuna is not challenging, oh, you are not telling me the right thing. No, how I am to understand that. So it's clarifying something, which is valid. Now Krishna will answer that question. Now, beautiful series of verses is coming from 5 to 13, actually. Very, very beautiful verses. So we'll read this 4.5. Prasannatma Prabhu, are you there? Somehow when we come to him, he's not there. Anyway, someone else. Madhuri Mataji, you can do.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vatitani.
Janmani tavata Arjuna.
Janmani tava Arjuna.
Tanyaham Veda Sarvani.
Tanyaham Veda Sarvani.
Natvam Veda Parantapa.
Natvam Veda Parantapa.
Translation. The personality of Godhead said, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy.
Thank you, Mataji. So now Krishna responds, Bahuni me vyatitani. Bahuni means many, many. Vyatitani, we have spent many, many. What? Janmani tavacha Arjuna. So me and you have taken many, many births. Now here the word has to be understood properly. When we're talking about Janma, so Janma of a Jiva and Janma of a God is different. So God, in one sense, never takes Janma. He appears. Like Prabhupada gave a simple example of sun appears in the horizon. Sun does not take birth. Sun does not die. So sun appears in front of our eyes and sun disappears. So similarly, when we're talking about Janma here, has to be understood appropriately. So now Krishna and Arjuna both have taken many, many appearance and disappearance. So for the Jiva, it can be said a death. Now, Jiva also, in one sense, never dies. The soul never dies, but the body dies. So Arjuna, as a Jiva, you have taken many, many births. I have also taken many births, and his birth can be understood as different incarnations. So Krishna comes as Matsya avatar, Kurma avatar. So in each avatar, especially the direct incarnations of Krishna, they are Purna avatar. They are Purna. Now, how much he expresses, that's different, but he's Purna. In Matsya avatar, he remembers what incarnations he have taken earlier. In Krishna avatar, he remembers everything. Ram avatar, he remembers everything. He does not forget like us. So he's saying, Bahuni me vetinani janmani tav charjanu. Tani aham Veda Sarvani. It's very simple Sanskrit. Tani, those ones, aham means me, Veda means to know, Sarvani means all of them. So I know all of them. Not on Veda. Same word is used, Veda and Veda. So you do not, Parantapa, you do not remember, but I remember. This is very clearly Krishna has said we both have taken many births. Again, Krishna's incarnations and Jiva's birth. I remember all of them, but you don't. Now Arjuna is asking, how come you remember everything and I don't? So Krishna says, why I remember everything. It's a beautiful verse 4.6, where Krishna for the very first time describes his common characteristics as well as unique characteristics. So let's see what those are. 4.6. Prasannatma Prabhuji. His internet is
Yeah, I think it's playing that.
a bit flaky. Okay, no problem.
I think he put a message also, Prabhu, saying that it's difficult for me to recite due to some
No
personal.
problem. No problem. I'm not reading any message, but that's perfectly fine. Anyone else can do. Rupam Prabhu, are you close by?
Rupam Prabhu was the traveling Prabhu.
I
No
can
problem.
if you like.
Wait, I can try.
Anyone can do. Yeah.
Aju, sorry.
Sorry, Mata. Go ahead, Mata.
Ajopi san avyayatma.
Ajopi san abhyayatma.
Bhutanam ishwaropi san.
Bhutanam Ishwaropi san
Prakritim swam adhisthaya.
Prakritim swamadhisthaya
Sambhavami atma mayaya.
Sambhavamya Atma Mayaya.
Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form.
Thank you, Mataji. So Aja refers to Aja. Ja means Janma. Aja means one who does not have a Jan. So I am Aja. Avyay refers to, again, a repeat word here, imperishable. So we read that in the previous verses as well. So I am Aja and I am Avyaya. Now these two qualities in Krishna also exist in normal soul. Normal soul is also Aja, normal soul is also Avyaya. Normal soul is imperishable. Normal soul is also Ajanma. He's unborn. Is it correct? But the third quality is very important. Bhutana refers to the living entity. Ishwaropi san, I am the Ishwara, the controller of Bhutanam. Now, can you apply this quality to a normal soul? No, right? So there are three qualities given here. Two are common with the normal soul. We are also Aja, we are also Avyaya. So we don't, like, our soul doesn't get old. Our body gets old. We are 40-year-old or 50-year-old, but soul is always fresh, ever fresh. Whatever the age of soul was 40 years ago is still the same age. But soul cannot be the controller of all the bhutas. So this is uniquely identifying the position of God, Krishna here. So Ajopi san avyatma, bhutanam ishwaropi san. Okay, so these are my qualities. So what do I do with these qualities now? Prakritim swam adhisthaya. So adhisthaya refers to, Prabhupada writes here, being so situated. So I'm always situated. Where I'm situated? Prakritim swam. Swam refers to apni, self. Prakriti means nature. I am situated in my prakriti. Are we situated in our prakriti? No. Right now, no, because we are situated in the material world. Actually, we are having a different body, a complete different identification, a complete different consciousness. We are not situated in our prakriti. If we were in our prakriti, where we will be? With Krishna in Vaikuntha. So we are not situated in prakriti. And why we are not situated in prakriti? Because prakriti, this material world, has forced us to be situated in this sort of prakriti, isn't it? So we are forced, whatever we are. Today, Hemanga, Chaitanya, Mahavasu, Prabhu, whoever, wherever, we are all forced to take birth in this body. No one chose. I'm sure none of us have chosen our birth. In India, in this village or this city, this will be my father, this will be my mother. So all this, we are not situated in our prakriti at all. We are forced, based on our desires in previous karma, we are forced to take a particular body in a particular family, in a particular culture or tradition, and we are here. But Krishna is not forced like that. Why? Because he's Prakritim Sam Adhisthaya. I'm situated in my Prakriti. Sambhavami. Sambhavami, Prabhupada writes here, refers to manifested or incarnate. Now, Prabhupada many times use word incarnation or manifest. So they are similar, but they are different. Anyone knows the difference between incarnation and manifestation? So incarna, karna word to flesh. So incarna means in flesh. Reincarnation, again coming in flesh. So when you talk about reincarnation, ideally, technically, it cannot be applied for God, isn't it? God never comes into flesh. God body, whenever Krishna comes in his body of Lord Ram or Kurma or Varaha, his body is always transcendental. There is no difference between his soul and the body. He is completely special in every single body. So when we talk about this one incarnation, we have to be very, very careful. Now, why Prabhupada used this? Because Prabhupada many times used these words so that people can understand the message. If he sort of puts a very new word which the audience cannot understand, then the purpose is not solved. So many times Prabhupada is using these words because in English, many times there's very limited words and he has to use a word which passes the message. But technically speaking, incarnation can be used for us. Obviously, we take birth in flesh again and again. The jiva loses the body and reincarnates into another body. So reincarnation is better fit for a jiva, not for God, not for the Lord. Why? Because his body is not into flesh. Karna means flesh. So many times Prabhupada uses the word manifest. Manifest is better. Avatar. Avatar is a Sanskrit word, which is correct word. Avatar, translation into English, incarnation, is actually a poor translation. Is a poor translation. But many times we just are limited with the words in English. That's why Sanskrit is considered a very complete language, very, very complete language. English sometimes doesn't have those words, but Prabhupada used that just for passing the message to his audience. So Sambhavami is more manifest. I manifest myself, and when I manifest, what is my form? My original transcendental form. Prakritim Sam Adhisthaya. Or also use word Atmayaya. By my internal energy, I manifest and I maintain my transcendental form. I do not dismaintain. Like we are not able to maintain our transcendental form, isn't it? Although we have it, but we are not able to maintain. But Krishna is able to maintain. So this verse talks the qualities of Lord and how does he appear. When he appears, he is completely transcendental. He is appearing not by Mahamaya, he is appearing by his own Atmaya, and he has another distinct quality which does not exist in Jiva, Bhutanam Ishwaropi San. And what's the common quality God also has? Ajopi San Abhyayatma. So he is also Aja, we are also Aja. He is also Abhyaya, we are also Abhyaya. But we are not Ishvara of other living entities. Is it okay? So Krishna says, because of this, I do not forget, because I maintain Atmaya. Okay? I do not forget, but you forget. So now the question comes, okay, so you come in your own original transcendental form and you have a distinct quality called Bhutanam Ishwaropi San. But when do you come? Now comes the most famous verses outside ISKCON, I should say. 4.7 and 8, every single kid in India, by the mercy of B.R. Chopra, at least knew these two verses. Let's read this verse and look at what Prabhupada is writing here. 4.7. You can read without it. Rupam Prabhu is happy to read. Kya badhiya verse aaya.
Thank you. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvati bharata anam adharmasya tadatmanam smidamyaham. Translation: whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I dissent myself.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
I'm just reading Prabhupada's purport, which I sort of discussed in the last verse. He says the word Sajami is significant here. Sajami cannot be used in the sense of creation. Now, Sajami also means creation. And this again repeat in Bhagavad Gita. But here, according to the previous verse, there is no creation of Lord's body or form, since all the forms are eternally existent. Therefore, Sajami means that Lord manifests himself as he is. So we have to take the word as per the context. Somewhere a speaker was saying, the Sanskrit is not a frozen language like English. It's not frozen, like the meaning are locked with the word. So meaning change in Sanskrit. That's called multivalent meaning. That means that meaning changes as per the context. Sometimes Hari means lion, and sometimes Hari means Hari, Lord. So Hari means also deer, mrag. So many times the meaning changes as per the context. So here Prabhupada writing very nicely, Sajami here does not refer to sense of creation. It refers to the manifestation of the Lord. Okay, so when does Lord appear? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Now there are many things to be discussed here. Let's discuss the word dharma. So what does the word dharma mean? So dharma has many meanings, many meanings. So in a simplistic term, we can say there are two types of dharma for each one of us. What are the two types of dharma for each one of us? Simplistic way. What are two dharma, Madhuri Mataji? For each one of us sitting here, or for anyone.
Spiritual dharma, like as per Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Swadharma.
And Swadharma. Swadharma can actually have two meanings as well. So spiritual dharma, Swadharma, I need more explanation. So paradharma and aparadharma, simplistic way I can say. Is that right? Aparadharma means refers to lower dharma. Lower dharma refers to the bodily dharma. Right now we are situated, say, in a male or female body. We may be called an Indian or Australian or American, whatever. Based on our body, we have a certain identification, and then we are supposed to act that way. And we are supposed to do that. Even Shastra says that. You cannot just behave irrationally. But that dharma is not the eternal dharma. That's just temporary dharma. We are supposed to follow in a nice way. But this is not eternal dharma. It's just for temporary 60, 70, 80 years that dharma will last. And then we lose all our passports. Again, start in a new body. We may take birth in China or Uganda. We don't know. It's very temporary dharma. But there's another dharma we all have, and that is called paradharma. Paradharma or Bhagavad Dharma, there are many names for it. Prabhuji called it Swadharma. So Swadharma, Swa here, if it refers to body, Swadharma can refer to bodily, Deha Dharma or Aparadharma. If Swa refers to Atma, that will refer to Atma Dharma or Bhagavad Dharma or Paradharma, which is the Dharma of the soul. Which Dharma Krishna is talking here? Now, before we come here, Yada Yada hi Dharma se Glanir Bhavata Bhara. So from the understanding of the meaning of dharma, we can understand this dharma cannot refers to soul dharma or paradharma, isn't it? Because paradharma is a frozen dharma. It's a constitutional position of dharma. It's a constitutional position of a living entity. The relationship of a living entity with Krishna will never change. The dharma of the living entity, the service to Krishna, will never change. So which dharma is talking about here? A social dharma, which belongs to, say, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. A dharma which we are supposed to follow as per Deha, which that gets declined. And the same word, if you go back to 1866, what is the verse? Sarva dharmanu parityaja. Now, when we talk Sarva dharmanu parityaja, dharma should be given up. Which dharma should be given up? Paradharma or aparadharma?
Paradharma.
Paradharma?
Aparadharma.
Apara, thank you. Paradharma cannot be given up. It's the quality of the soul. By constitution, soul is like that. You cannot give it up. And how can Krishna will even talk about it? That give up paradharma. That's the whole idea of Bhagavad Gita. You go from apara to para. Bhagavatam taking you from apara to para, from lower to higher. So when we're talking about glanir bhavati bharata, sarvadharmanu parityaja, the clear context of the word dharma here refers to the aparadharma, bodily dharma. So when this dharma, which establishes the rules and principles in the society, gets declined, abhyuthanam adharmasya, and the irreligion is on rise, tadatmanam sachamiham. A simple example we can take from Kansa or Ravan. When Ravan was here, for example, he was not only troubling humans, he was also troubling sages, also demigods. Ravan actually was said he has won over even Yamraj. Not technically, when he was fighting with Yamraj, Brahma asked Yamraj to withdraw, and Ravan says, okay, so I won. So Brahma asked Yamraj to withdraw because of a reason he has given a boon that Ravan will be killed by a Manav. So Yamraj was withdrawn from the war, not because he was defeated. Technically, he was not defeated, but Ravan said, yeah, I have won over the death now. Ravan thought, at least, I'm invincible. Same with Kansa. Kansa was also the enemy of demigods. So we are talking about the irreligion was on rise that time, and the normal dharma could not be maintained. And Krishna said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajami. As Prabhupada said, manifest aham, I manifest myself. And Prabhupada writes here in the next one, I think Sumit Prabhu has a question.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
I have this question.
Yes.
Prabhuji, whenever I used to hear this verse, I always had this in mind that, Krishna says, I come whenever there is an irreligious activities or there is a decline in his religious practices. So those people are more lucky, Prabhuji, because Krishna is coming even though there is a lot of, irreligious practices. But as compared to people who are remembering Krishna and loving Krishna, so isn't it unfair that Krishna should come that time as well?
Okay, can I park this question here and I answer after verse 8?
Okay.
The question is valid. Let's read verse 8, get more context from Krishna, and then we will talk about that, because your question will be answered partially in verse 8 by Krishna.
Sure.
Yeah.
Prabhu, sorry,
Point is
Prabhu, just
valid. Yes.
one more question, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
So in the context of Arjuna fighting in Kurukshetra, like it's both ways, right, Prabhu? I mean to say, even for the bodily perspective, he's a Kshatriya, so he need to fight as per Apara Dharma, and Paradharma to establish the religion. I mean to say whatever the declined religious practices. So
yeah.
For him, is it the both?
No.
What?
Paradharma is very clear. It's your service to Krishna. It's nothing to do with whatever happening outside in the world. So who becomes the king and who gets defeated, Yudhishthir becomes the king, and all that thing, they all belong to Aparadharma. Paradharma is simple one thing, pleasing Krishna. Now, to please Krishna, Arjuna is fighting the war. If you look at the whole Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was not convinced with the arguments of Krishna about body and all that. Arjuna was convinced with one thing: Krishna, I'm your servant, and if you ask me to fight, it pleases you, I will fight. It's very clear actually throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So whatever happens outside, it's all Aparadharma, Prabhu. Paradharma is one. Now, to follow Paradharma, we follow our Aparadharma. For example, you're earning a livelihood, for example, and with that livelihood, you're taking care of your family. But the goal is to please Krishna. That's why your livelihood is in such a way which is harmonious with the Dharma. So you're not like killing animals and then earning money and all those things. So you harmonize your Aparadharma under the Paradharma. And that's the ideal situation. You follow Aparadharma in a way which needs you the development of Paradharma, not other way. Sometimes many people say, I don't have time to chant Hare Krishna because I'm so busy. So basically you're putting Paradharma down and Aparadharma up. So for Arjuna, it's both, but not just to establish Yudhishthira Maharaj as a king, because he wants to please Krishna, which is his Paradharma. Now, how Krishna gets pleased in this situation? Krishna is going to get pleased by Arjuna fighting the war. Tomorrow, Krishna may say to you, Arjuna, don't fight the war. So what will be the dharma of Arjuna? To not fight the war. Prabhupada said, we are not vegetarians. What we are Krishnatarians. If Krishna would ask us to kill animals, Prabhupada said, we will kill all the animals of the world. Who said that? So we are Krishnatarians. Bhakti Maharaj also said, we are following the instruction. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad paranitam. Whatever Krishna says, that's dharma. Yudhishthira Maharaj did not follow the instruction of Krishna when he said, speak lie. Speak Ashwatthama is dead. Yudhishthira was hesitant. So actually his ratha came down. Acharya has explained, not because he lied. He did not follow the instruction of Krishna as Krishna desired. That's how Yudhishthira Maharaj Rath came down on the floor. So Yudhishthira Rath was always like one feet above the ground. Yudhishthira was so pious. But after this incident, Yudhishthira Rath came down. Mundane people say because Yudhishthira lied. But the Vaishnava Acharya says, no, Yudhishthira did not lie. He hesitated to speak what Krishna asked him to speak. That's how he came down. So Paradharma is very clear. It's about pleasing the Lord. And Aparadharma, it comes under that. Is it okay?
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Rasanand Prabhuji?
Prabhu, quick question. Is Varnashra Dharma Apara Dharma?
Apara Dharma, purely Apara Dharma. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I am not a Brahman, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a male, female, nothing. I'm just the Dasanudas. Okay, let's read 4.8 and we'll answer next question of Sonia Mataji. Very famous verse. Who would like to read? Vinay Prabhu is ready.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, please.
Paritranaya sadhunam
Paritranaya sadhu
vinashaya cha dushkritam
Nashaya cha dushkritam
dharma samsthapanarthaya
Dharma samsthapanarthaya
shambhavami yuge yuge.
Bhavami yuge yuge.
To deliver the pious and annihilate of miscreant, as well as to reestablish to principle of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So 4.8. So 4.7 was speaking when religion sort of goes down, irreligion comes up, so I come. So when I come, what do I do? So Krishna gives 3 reasons as per this verse. Now this verse is such a verse, our acharyas have done so much commentary on this, and it can be like the whole 2-hour class on this particular verse. But we'll just understand the context here, what Krishna is trying to say. So I do 3 things when I come. What I do? Paritranaya sadhunam. So I, as Prabhupada writes, I deliver the pious. Sadhu is pious. Paritranaya is I deliver. So tran refers to deliverance. Like we say, trayate. Manaha trayate iti mantra. So mantra, what's the definition of mantra? Is manaha trayate, one which delivers the mind. Now we are chanting Maha Mantra, for example. What it does, it delivers the mind from the material world and it engages the mind in the service of Krishna. So trana refers to the deliverance. Trahimam, we must have heard this word in Hindi serials as well, Trahimam. So please say me, some Devta come in front of Lord Ram and say, Trahimam. So Trahi refers to deliverance. So to deliver the pious. Second task which Krishna is saying, Vinashaya cha dushkritam. So dushkritana refers to miscreants, one who does not follow the Dharma. What I do with them? Vinashaya, I destroy them. Third thing, what he does, dharma samsthapanarthaya. So artha, hetu, business. What is my business to come here? Sambhavami yuge yuge. I manifest myself in every millennium. What is my business? I do 3 things. Paritranaya sadhunam, I deliver the pious. Vinashaya dushkratam, I annihilate the miscreants. And the third thing, dharma samsthapanarthaya. Now, our acharyas have explained all these 3 can be done by other incarnations of Krishna. Krishna doesn't have to personally come for these 3 purposes. Let's take an example. Paritranaya sadhunam. So he wants to deliver the pious. So he says pious is already delivered. When Prahlad was chanting Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudeva, was he not delivered? He was already delivered. Krishna doesn't have to come and deliver him. Deliver means you're stuck somewhere and someone is delivering. But Prahlad was already mukta. He was already liberated. So Krishna came, Nrsimhadev came, but that was not the primary reason. So they are the reason, they are valid reason, but they are external reasons. External means they appear to be the right reason and they are right, but they are not the top reasons. They're not the primary focus, secret reasons. So one example of Prahlad, already delivered. He doesn't have to come and deliver Prahlad. Vinashaya dushkratam, so I come and kill the miscreants. For example, Lord Ram came to kill Ravan. Really, yes, he came, but Ravan, who was invincible, but for example, Ravan was, it says, beating his chest all the time. I am invincible. I am invincible. And Acharya says, inside that chest, there's a heart. Krishna can just switch off the plug of the heart. He give a heart attack to Ravan, and Ravan will be dead. Hiranyakashipu will be dead. So Nrsimhadev doesn't have to necessarily come to kill Hiranyakashipu. There's no need for that. That happens, which we see as a byproduct. Third, dharma samsthapanarthaya, to establish the religion. really, it says religion can also be established by a great avatar, Shaktavesh avatar, for example, of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada came and he established a religion all over the world, and in such a way which no one else could do. I'm remembering, say, Ramanujacharya, Shankaracharya also in some way. So they all come, the big powerful personalities, big powerful Acharya, they come and establish a religion. Krishna doesn't have to necessarily come for this particular purpose, although he also fulfills these purposes when he comes, right? So what is the actual reason of Krishna's appearance? Anyone? All great bhaktas are here. What's the actual reason, internal reason, you can say, of the appearance of the Lord? Although these reasons are also correct, but they're not the primary reasons.
We need to provide happiness to the devotees.
Happiness to the devotee. Okay, so Krishna comes as similar things. He says to interact with his devotees. To interact, because we all love interaction, isn't it? We are sitting on whole day on Facebook, internet, WhatsApp. What are we doing? Interaction with the outside world, the social media or whatever. You come home alone, you want to see your family. Why? Because we are human beings, we want to interact. So Krishna also come here for interaction. Now, if Krishna would have killed, Lord Ram would have killed Ravan just by a heart attack, what will happen to the whole Ramayana? What we will be discussing today, what will happen in Mahabharata? Killing Kansa is not the main deal. Kansa can be killed just by Krishna is Satya Sankalpa, just by a thought of Krishna, Kansa will be killed. But he does all this Leela. Actually, if you read in Srimad Bhagavatam, in 10th canto, when Krishna appears in front of Vasudeva and Devaki, he reminds them of the 3 previous births of Vasudeva and Devaki, and then he says, I'm here. So Vasudeva and Devaki says, because they see baby Krishna, and they saw the form of Vishnu, 400 form of Vishnu, and then he converted into a baby Krishna. But they were very, very scared. They thought Kansa has killed our 6 children, and now Kansa can come anytime and kill these children as well. So to remove the fear of the father and mother, Krishna told them, baby Krishna told them, okay, if you're too fearful, then drop me to Nanda Maharaj house in Gokul, in Nanda Gokul. Krishna that time only could have killed Kansa, isn't it? Was it difficult for Krishna to kill Kansa that time? Or he has to grow old like human baby? Or he's too soft now? When he grows old, then he will get the strength. Is Krishna also like that? If Krishna was also like that, just after that incident, 6 days later, Krishna killed Putana. What's the height of Putana? Anyone remembers? Jiva Goswami tells 18 kilometers. She was 12 miles tall. Just imagine 18-kilometer high object comes in front of an infant, 6 days old infant. So killing Kansa that time could be done. But then what will happen to Vrindavan Leela? The whole Vrindavan Leela was waiting for Krishna. So Krishna says, all right, if you're too fearful, it's written in the verse, if you're too fearful, otherwise you don't need to be fearful actually at all. I'm here now, no problem. But if you're too fearful, drop me to Nanda Gokul. So Krishna performed these leelas with his devotees. That's the main purpose of Krishna's appearance. Other things which happen as a byproduct. We feel like Krishna is killing Kansa. Actually, our Acharya says Krishna never killed Kansa. You know that? Krishna never killed Kansa. So which Krishna? Shyama Sundar Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, Brajendra Nandan Krishna, who never steps out of Vrindavan. Vrindavanam Paritejam Padam Ekam Nagachati. Krishna actually never went to Mathura. Vasudev Krishna killed Kansa, who went out of Mathura when Akrura was taking bath in Yamuna. Krishna exchanged. So Vasudev Krishna, who is the son of Vasudev and Devaki, went to Mathura and he killed Kansa. He killed Kansa. Not Shyam Sundar Krishna. He never went out. Shyam Sundar Krishna never actually takes any weapon. Never takes any weapon. He kills someone by his teeth, like with Putana. He puts his hand in the mouth of Keshi. Sometimes he slaps the dhopi. He never has to pick up any weapon. This is our wonderful Krishna. So Krishna is performing the Leela in Vrindavan or in Ramayana with different devotees. That's why he comes. That's the main reason for Krishna's appearance. Otherwise, why would he come? What's the need of it? Okay, now coming back to your question, Sonia Mataji, can you please re-explain? In a nutshell, I'll just...
Okay, so basically this one, why Krishna came for 3 purposes. One, to annihilate the miscreants, and to deliver the pious and for Dharma Sanstapana as well.
Yep.
So so basically he is doing multitasking here,
He's
Krishna.
doing multitasking, Mataji. Definitely he's doing multitasking.
So to deliver the people who are involved in the religious activities as well, by coming and killing them and eventually liberating them and delivering them as well, and for the pious souls as well who are remembering Krishna, and for the devotees as well, to in a form of a leela, that we can all meditate on Krishna and develop more love for Krishna.
Yes.
So,
What was your question, Mataji? Previously, you asked a question after 4.7.
yes.
And I said I'll answer after 4.8.
Yes. So my question was that yada yada hi dharma se, where in this verse we were saying that Krishna comes every millennium after when there is any irreligious activity. So
Yes.
my question was that for irreligious activities, for people who are doing irreligious activities,
Oh, yes.
they
I
are getting
remember.
Krishna, but for people who are involved in pious activities, they are not getting darshan of Krishna.
Yeah.
So
You got your answer, Mataji, now?
yes, but if you could,
I'll just expand it. Yes. So very nice question. So as I said, Krishna comes primarily for interacting with devotees, not with the demons. So that was not a primary reason for Krishna to appear, say in Lord Ram, not just appear to kill Ravan. Huh? So when you say Ravan is more fortunate, not really, because there are multiple ways to kill Ravan. But Lord Ram externally shows that I come here to kill Ravan. Now, what happens during that time? So first thing, Ravan is not so fortunate. Other devotees, Shabri is fortunate, for example. The sages of Dandakaranya, they are fortunate. Valmiki Rishi is fortunate. Yakevalk Rishi, he's fortunate. Kag Bhushan is fortunate. And that's why Lord Ram came, just for one example. Now, another reason which is said by, say, Ravan or Kansa or Hiranyakashipu example is said Ravan and Hiranyakashipu and all these personalities, although they seems to be demon, they are actually devotees of the Lord, because no demon can be so powerful to kill that demon. Krishna has to come personally. These demons are actually Jai and Vijay. We probably know that. So Jai and Vijay were cursed by 4 Kumaras and they took 3 births as demons. So because only those devotees who are empowered by Krishna can become so powerful that Krishna has to come. Someone was saying actually, why don't we follow Adharma and then get darshan of Krishna this way? Like Ravan got darshan of Krishna, Kansa got darshan of Krishna. So Maharaj responded in one of the class, I heard that. So Maharaj responded, you can never become a Gunda like Ravan. You will just become a small Gunda, and Prakriti, nature, will just slap you. What nature? Even a other Gunda will slap you and you will just fall on the ground. Or Prakriti will slap you like in form of tsunami, or in form of heart attack. You can never become that big Gunda. That's the problem. He said, even if you try that way, any person, a human being, or Prakriti is enough for you. Krishna doesn't have to, come and fiddle around with you guys. He has to fiddle around with Ravan and Hiranyakashipu, for example. They actually surpass the laws of Prakriti. Prakriti, Bhumi Devi, has to go to Brahmaji to pray. Please, Brahmaji, I'm Bhuri Bharena. I'm having a lot of burden. So please come and solve the problem. So Krishna said, okay, I'll appear and solve the problem. So they are the big empowered Gundas, empowered by Krishna himself. So Krishna comes and kills them. We cannot become that big. So that path actually is not for us. Not for us. In either way, even, if you put your logic, humans or Prakriti or beast is enough for us to say Hare Krishna and leave this body. Krishna doesn't have to come. But Krishna comes to kill those empowered demons. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sakhi Radhika Mataji.
One similar thing, I just happened to hear this conversation with a senior devotee, and he was explaining that we are very fortunate that we, because he was explaining the highest mood is the mood of separation. So at least we know about Krishna and we feel separated. That is, we are in the line of Gaudiya, like line of Radharani. So we are the most fortunate. So even if we haven't seen Krishna face to face, like in the Leelas, like he comes, but we have seen the Paramhamsas like Prabhupada and his disciples, and they can see Krishna, and therefore the real mood we are following, because the real mood is the servant of the servant. So that's why we are the most fortunate.
Yep.
And you even know that it would be very fast. The process would be very fast, because if we are in the same like mood of the servant, then we might see Krishna face to face. That's what he said.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice. And also just want to add one point. We are seeing Krishna face to face with the eyes of Prabhupada. Huh? The Prabhupada can see Krishna directly, and we are following Prabhupada. We're trying to follow Prabhupada as sincerely as possible. So we are seeing Krishna through the eyes of Prabhupada. And what's the gross proof of that? Through the Shastra and commentary of Prabhupada, purports of Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is opening Krishna for us. Every purport Prabhupada gives, he opens up Krishna, and Krishna becomes actually more and more accessible. Although we are so conditioned, but with the mercy of Prabhupada, if you're reading the purport with a nice consciousness, actually we could be able to see Krishna. And Rupa Goswami says there are 4 stages: Nam, Rupa, Gun, Leela. If we chant properly, we will be able to enter into Nama, Rupa. We will be able to see Krishna. And from Rupa, we'll be able to remember Guna. And from Guna, we'll be able to enter into the Leela. So it is actually based on our sincere chanting. So if we chant sincerely, we read sincerely, then our chanting will improve. Our purification will happen if we follow all the rules and regulations correctly. And then when we are purified, we will be able to see this deity, which we see today as a deity, not as Krishna. We say, okay, it's as good as Krishna, but actually Prabhupada saw the deity as Krishna, not as good as Krishna. So we'll be able to see the Rupa of Krishna, and then we'll be able to appreciate the qualities of Krishna, Guna, and then we'll be able to enter into the Leela. All of us, actually, it says we are in the queue. We're in the queue because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has started this for all of us. For the Kali Yuga Jiva, he come and give the Krishna Prema, which was never given earlier. So the possibilities are unlimited. All we have to do, when Maharaj was saying, don't jump out of the ship. Somehow or other, yen ken prakaran, just stay with devotees. It may be uncomfortable at some times, some negative things you may experience, but that's okay. It's just a part of the journey. You will have some inconveniences, but the end of the journey is very close, and it's unlimited love of Krishna available to all of us, which seems quite impractical, but it's possible because of the mercy of Prabhupada, not that we are eligible. Thank you, Mataji. Very nice sharing. Rupam Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu, I just wanted to add one more example to what you just explained about Hiranyakashipu and Ravan and Prahlad Maharaj. At a body level, if you see the amount of hardship Hiranyakashipu had to go through, millions, I don't know exactly, I think 10,000 celestial years.
60,000 years, tapasya. Some says 36, some says 60, but 36,000 years of tapasya.
Yeah. He did that to achieve or become equivalent to Brahma. But his son, with just 5 years of social service, 5 years. I think you can't even count 5 years, bro, because by the time he started doing his services, yeah, initial 1-2 years as an infant, you hardly can do anything. But after that, he it's the proportion is completely there is no proportion actually.
Yeah.
So devotees in that manner are in a better state than being on the other side of the fence.
Yeah. Same example I heard what Prabhuji said about Ravan as well. So Ravan had to give up his 10 heads to achieve what Ravan achieved. But Vibhishan got the same thing just by bowing down to Lord Ram. He just bowed down and Lord Ram said, "Aao Lankapati." He just bowed down. So Tulsidas Wright said, Ravan had to cut his 10 heads. Now we don't have to cut our head. What we have to do is just bow down to Prabhupada and Lord Gopinath. That's it. There's unlimited things available to all of us. Unlimited. What to speak of this material opulence? The opulence of even Indra is short in comparison to the opulence available to a devotee. It says Mukti. There's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. It stands in front of a devotee with the folded hands and says, "Please accept me." And devotee says, "Get out. Get out from. I don't want you. I don't want you." The mukti comes in the folded hands. All the ashtasiddhis comes with the folded hand in front of a devotee. So position of a devotee is much, much higher, much, much higher. Okay, thank you, Prabhuji and Mataji. Nice discussion. Okay, Let's take the last one, 4.9, another very, very famous verse. And we'll do some repeats next time as well. They go actually together. Who will do the last one?
Can I do, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
Evam yo
Veti
tattva.
tattva.
Tyaktva deham punarjanma.
Tyaktva deham
Punarjanma.
Naiti mameti so Arjuna.
Naiti mameti so Arjuna.
One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Srila
So
Prabhupada
now,
ki jai.
as we know, 4.7 and 4.8, like one of the most quoted successive verses. If you look in any book, they're the most quoted verses, successive verses. I'm talking 4.7 and 4.8. But Prabhupada actually in his lectures did not quote so much 4.7 and 4.8. He quoted this one, 4.9. He is one of the most famous verses of Prabhupada. It's a very deep verse. Let's see what this verse is saying. Janma karma chame divyam. So janma refers to here not a birth, because its janma word is used for Krishna. So it's appearance. So obviously literal translation birth, but it's appearance. Karma again refers to his actions. Chame divyam. Cha refers to and, me means me. Divya refers to transcendental. Now divya word has many meanings. Divya Mataji is here. She will know more about her own name. What I have heard, actually many meanings at multiple levels. So, Deva Mataji, you want to explain your own name?
नहीं प्रभु आप ही कीजिए.
नहीं, आपका नाम है तो okay, we'll try to share what I've heard. So Divya, in general sense, we can refer to celestial things as well. So you must have heard in Mahabharata, Arjuna had Divyastra. Divyastra. Now Divyastra does not refers to weapon from the Krishna. Divyastra refers to weapons from demigods. So celestial, anything above terrestrial. So terrestrial is earthly plane where we are at the moment. So anything above higher planetary system within the material universe can be referred to as Divya. So Divya Sukh, sometimes Divya Sukh is heavenly pleasure. Brahma Loka also has a lot of Sukha, so we call Divya. So Divya can refer to in one sense celestial pleasure, celestial weapons, celestial things, celestial beings. Demigod's body is also sometimes referred to as Divya. Now Divya, another meaning of Divya is transcendental, para, which is beyond the material universe, which means it's belong to spiritual. So here Divya word refers to transcendental, as Prabhupada writes, which is not belonging to the material world. It is not celestial. It is completely spiritual, transcendental, beyond the modes of material nature. So here Krishna is saying, my janma, my appearance, my karma, my activities are Divya. So again, Divya does not refer to here celestial or wonderful, miraculous thing. No, it refers to transcendental. We'll see what it means a little later. Evam yo veti tattvataha. So veti refers to know. Evam, one who knows tattvataha, in truth. We'll talk about this word in a minute. So one who knows my activities and appearance are transcendental in truth. What happens to that sort of person? Tyaktva deham. So when he quits this body, punarjanma, again reincarnation, na iti, does not happen. So what happens to that person? Mam iti, he comes back to me, hey Arjuna. Okay, so just literally translated that. So hey Arjun, one who knows my appearance and activities as transcendental, not mundane, in truth, what happens to this person when he leaves his body? Punarjanmana, he will not take another birth in this material world. Rather, mam iti, he will come back to me. Now I'm looking at the watch, it's 9:14. I've just translated the verse. We'll discuss this verse, I think, next week, because this verse will take some time. This is one of the favorite verses of Prabhupada, and we have to just understand the context of it, the meaning of it, and some examples of it. And then we will know the meaning of the word tattvataha and divya. And then we can sort of understand this verse and apply this verse. Okay, any quick questions or comments?
Prabhu, just one quick question.
Yes.
Is Vivaswan the Sun Lord? Is that also like, is he like also a kind of a, what do you call the position, like
Yes.
similar to
Yes.
Janaka, we say post,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
So
Prabhuji. So, Sun God.
Vivaswan is also.
No,
Okay.
Vivaswan is a name. Vivaswan, like Modi ji is the Indian Prime Minister right now. So when we say Sun God, there's a position. Vivaswan at the moment is sitting on the Sun God position. So Vivaswan is the actual name. Sun God is the position. And that changes.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Prabhuji, on this one, very nicely, like on my own question, I got the answer in the following two verses. Basically, Prabhupada explained it so nicely, and Krishna gave answer very nicely as well. So Krishna is, that's why we call him very merciful. So he's not even delivering the people who are not doing religious activities, but also more loving to the people who are doing the religious activities. So
Yes.
he's being equal and loving and delivering everybody. So
Yes, he is Hatari Gatidayaka. In NOD, one of the qualities of Krishna out of 64 qualities is Hatari Gatidayaka. He delivers even to demons. He delivers even to demons. What to speak of devotee? So if he can deliver Putana, why not devotee? Putana wasn't so sincere. So if we are sincerely practicing our rules and regulations and following our spiritual master or Prabhupada, in this case, why Krishna will not deliver us? It may take a while, few births here and there, but why not? Why not? Putana offered poison. I'm sure we are not offering poison daily to our deities, so we are offering. It may be not a pure love at this stage, but we have some love for Krishna. So the hope is definitely there. I was listening to a lecture saying, the speaker was saying the worst thing with the devotee is to lose hope in Krishna consciousness. Oh, devotion is so high, I'm so low. Yes, we are low, no doubt, but the path given by our acharyas has made this process very, very easy, very, very easy. Although it's very, very high, but with the help of our acharyas, we can go that high jump in a very limited period of time, very, very limited period of time. Now, it may not be just one birth, it may be another 10, 20 births, but that's nothing in comparison to zillions of births which we have taken and which we will be taking without Krishna consciousness. Okay, let's stop here. It's 9:17. If you have questions, please write it and we'll answer next week. Now, have a good Janmashtami and Prabhupada appearance and Kids Janmashtami. We have a lot of festivals. It starts tomorrow, Adivas ceremony. There's a Maha Homa of Lord Nrsimhadev. And we can see here Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. So have a happy, safe Krishna conscious Janmashtami and the festival in the temple. So obviously Sunday we don't have class. Now next week we can have 2 classes if that's okay with everyone. So Sunday will be a normal class, which is 28th, and we can also have a class on 24th, next Wednesday. I hope it's okay with most of you. Rupam Prabhu is sort of thinking about it. Because last week we missed out, so I want to catch up with the last week class. And the following week also, we can't have class because of Radhasmi being on Sunday, and weekday I'm not available because of another seva. So I hope it's okay. Okay. So let's have class Prabhuji, Sumit Prabhuji 24th of August, Wednesday, same time, same place on Zoom, and 28th we may have a class in person. Okay. Okay, let's stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.